Really good question. Really good question. A question I have asked myself plenty of times. Like, why didn't he just send Jesus like right after Adam sinned? Like, all right, go die now. We can fix this right away. Uh, well, first of all, God's ways are not our ways, and what we think might make sense does not make sense. But Galatians 4:4-7 indicates that in the fullness of time, the perfectness of time, Jesus came. Historically speaking, this is definitely accurate. The world wasn't overly cynical to religion yet, as it is now. Okay, if Jesus came now, would people listen? Pfft, probably not. They'd be like some kook on YouTube's doing magic tricks, right? Okay, so historically speaking, people were not overtly cynical to religion yet. Modern science hadn't make us think that we could kill God yet. That happened in the 1800s. All right. On the other hand, the infrastructure for carrying the gospel throughout the earth wasn't in place until Greece or Rome either. Those highways, all roads to Rome, needed for the advancement of the gospel in a quick fashion, and it happened very quickly, right? One of the problems I have with the question and how it's stated, I'm not calling out the question maker in this regard, but just thinking of how it's stated is it seems to accuse God of misleading generations of people because of Judaism. But that actually misses the point of Judaism altogether. In fact, it is Judaism that is necessary before Christ comes, because God knew something that we all know is that we like to do it ourselves, okay? All of you have been 3 years old at one point. Your parents said, let me help you put your shoes on. And you said, no, I do myself, right? We thought we could do it ourselves. God gave time, in my opinion, for people to think, to try, to effort, to effort to come back to him. And he knew that the acceptance of grace would only happen in a time where people would realize that the law would not work. And so we see throughout the Old Testament, the law doesn't work. Yes, God knew it wasn't going to work, but he knew it was necessary in order that people would ultimately be drawn to him. And the lessons throughout the Old Testament, if you read the New Testament, how many times did Peter and Paul reference the Old Testament to get Jews and Gentiles to understand who God is and who Jesus is? Read through Romans, read through Hebrews. That history was necessary for people to have an accurate faith in who Jesus Christ is. So in the fullness of time, God came as Jesus. All right. So in short, the cure or the fix is always more time consuming than the infection or the problem. We are experiencing that right now in COVID-19. This COVID-19 infection happened really quickly. The fix taking a really long time. That's just how it always works. And that's how God operated with sin. It took time. Again, you can reference that to why does God allow COVID-19? The assumption that evil is something that should just be smited right away assumes that evil does not take time to address. If it happened in time, it must take time to address, and God is doing it in the best way possible because, after all, he is God.